Hamas released 6 hostages from Gaza on Saturday, handing over the final living captives whom the warring sides agreed would be freed when a ceasefire began last month. Israel is due to release about 600 Palestinian detainees in exchange. The first 2 hostages to be released, Tal Shoam, 40, and Avera Mengistu, 38, were turned over to Red Cross officials in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. Shoam was kidnapped from Kibbutz Be'eri, along with his 2 children, wife, and mother-in-law, all of whom were released in November 2023. Mengistu, an Israeli from Ashkelon, crossed into Gaza in 2014. Later on, thousands, including Hamas fighters, gathered at a separate location in Nuseirat, central Gaza, where 3 of the hostages, Aliyah Cohen, 27, Omer Shem Tov, 22, and Omer Winkert, 23, were handed over in another heavily choreographed ceremony. A number of children appeared on the stage wearing shirts with photographs of Hamas leaders who had been killed. The 3 men were kidnapped at the Nova Music Festival near the border with Gaza. They appeared thin but in better condition than some of the previous freed hostages, whose conditions sparked alarm in Israel. Shem Tov appeared to engage with some of the Hamas fighters on stage and blew a kiss toward the crowd. A 6th hostage, Hisham al-Sayed, 37, an Arab Israeli from a Bedouin community in southern Israel who walked into Gaza in 2015, was turned over to the Red Cross in Gaza City, according to an Israeli security source and a Hamas source. Al-Sayed and Mengistu both reportedly have serious mental health conditions. They were captured by Hamas about a decade ago, while the 4 others were taken during the October 7, 2023, attack. The Israeli military said the hostages had crossed into Israel and would receive medical assessments before being reunited with their families. The Palestinian prisoners' office said on Saturday that it had received the list of some 600 prisoners and detainees expected to be freed in return. Of those, 50 had been serving life sentences, 60 had been serving long sentences, while 445 were detained in Gaza since October 7, 2023. The captives being released on Saturday are the last living hostages whom Israel and Hamas agreed to exchange when indirect talks in Qatar last month culminated in a ceasefire agreement. Israeli President Isaac Herzog said Saturday that the completion of a hostage deal is a humanitarian, moral, and Jewish imperative. He added that today's freed hostages return from the depths of hell to begin the process of healing and recovery alongside their loving families, who fought with all their strength for them. Just before being handed over to the Red Cross in Rafah, Shoam and Mengistu were paraded on stage, flanked by armed and masked militants. They were handed documents, and Shoam was forced to address the crowd. The remains of another hostage, Shiri Bibas, arrived in Tel Aviv on Friday night, after an outcry over Hamas having released the wrong body. Bibas' remains had been expected to be among those of 4 hostages returned by Hamas on Thursday, alongside her sons, Kfir and Ariel, and another captive, Oded Lifshitz. However, while forensic tests by Israeli authorities confirmed that the remains included those of the 2 boys and Lifshitz, the 4th body was not that of Shiri Bibas, and nor did it match that of any other Israeli hostage, prompting outrage and condemnation. A convoy carrying Bibas' remains, which Hamas had turned over to the Red Cross, arrived in Tel Aviv on Friday night. Last night, our Shiri was brought home. After the identification process at the Institute for Forensic Medicine, we received the news this morning that we had feared. Our Shiri was murdered in captivity, said a statement from her family provided by the Hostages and Missing Families Forum on Saturday. After Saturday's releases, Hamas and its allies will continue to hold 63 Israeli hostages in Gaza. At least 32 of those are believed to be dead, according to the Israeli government, one of whom, the soldier Hadar Golden, has been held since 2014. If another 4 hostage bodies are released next week as planned, the handover process for the first phase of the deal will be complete. Israel and Hamas are holding indirect negotiations to extend the ceasefire. Those talks began more than 2 weeks late. Hamas on Saturday signaled it is prepared to hand over all remaining Israeli hostages, alive and dead, in one group in exchange for the withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza under the next phase of the ceasefire.